So when we understand that behavior-focused managing is about targeting on the specific actions and not the personal trait or the personality, right? Then we can get into behavior-focused conversations. Hey leaders, welcome to the Leadership Sandbox. I'm Tammy Bond, your host, and excited that we're going to have some bold conversation today that's going to help you to produce some big results in the workplace. Before we dive into the sandbox and you kick off your shoes and you get your pen and paper, here's what I want you to do. I want you to imagine with me for a moment, if every performance review felt like collaboration rather than confrontation, what would be different for you as a leader, as a manager of others in your workplace? What would be different for the team, for the individual contributors, if every review felt like collaboration versus confrontation? Hey, leader, if you're navigating tough conversations and it feels like a struggle, I want you to know I've got you covered. I've got you back. I've created a communication starter pack designed to give leaders and managers the tools that they need to communicate with confidence, clarity, and real impact. So I want you to head on over to bondgroupenterprises.com and grab your starter pack today. It's time to lead conversations that matter and get the results you deserve. Today, we're diving in deep and we're going to go there fast. And we're going to talk all about the power of behavior-focused managing and why is that important and why is that so critical to the way that you navigate change and transformation in your team. But first, I want to talk about what is behavior-focused managing. Well, listen, it's about addressing specific actions on a behavior base, not personal traits. Remember, you've heard me say it before where I talk about you want to take it off the personality and put it into the behavior. And a lot of times we actually don't even have the definition of what those behaviors are we're looking for. And that's up to us. So here's an example and the difference between what might be an action versus personal. You're unprofessional versus when you miss deadlines, it impacts the team, right? You're unprofessional. I now went to the person. I went just like direct in aggressively. You're unprofessional when you don't meet deadlines, or it's unprofessional when you don't. What I'd rather have you say is reframe it into the behavior of when you miss deadlines, here is the impact. Remember, we've talked about SBI, situation, behavior, impact, and then add the E on the end for expectations. This is one of those SBI conversations. When you miss deadlines, here's the impact that it has to others. And so what do we need to see different from this person? Transforms the conversation. I'm not pointing fingers anymore. It matters because it builds trust, and it matters because it keeps the feedback objective and actionable, which is very, very, very important. So let's talk about the 3 keys to behavior-focused managing. What does that look like? It's really about the 3 keys to behavior-focused conversations that are so important. Number 1 is I want you to be specific. I want you to use data and observations, not just assumptions or not third-party assumptions. Someone heard it from somebody and they shared it with you. Please don't. If you didn't hear it from the source, you don't have any reason to repeat it. But here's the example that I would offer you, one way that you would approach the conversation. Hey, Joe, you actually interrupted twice during today's meeting. Instead of, Joe, you're always interrupting. So always is not specific because then Joe's going to be afraid to ever open his mouth. But you interrupted twice during today's meeting, and then you're going to follow it up with, and so, we want to ensure that this doesn't happen again. So how do you do that? You want to stay solution oriented, which is your step number 2, right? You want to pivot that conversation toward the improvement that you want to see, the behavior change that you want to see. So then you can say, hey, Joe, so I'm curious how we can work together to ensure that this interrupting stops, that it doesn't happen again. Because here's what the outcome is, or here's the impact to the team when you're constantly interrupting. Sally is not able to give her input. Sandra's not able to give her input because you're the constant interrupter, right? Because you interrupted twice. I've asked for that to change. This is how we want to see it change. How can we work together, right? Then you go into your step number 3, which is follow through. It's your job, leader, your job, manager, to revisit the progress regularly. The next meeting that Joe's in and Joe doesn't interrupt, I actually want you to go, hey, Joe, I know last week we talked about the interrupting, and I noticed this week you really waited your turn before speaking, and it was so honoring to the team, and I want to celebrate that. Now, the flip side is also true. Follow through. You want to revisit it to say, hey, Joe, last week we talked about the interruptions, and we came up with a game plan to change that you were committed to working. And we discussed that, but I also noticed that the behavior is still there. So I'm curious what else you want to put in place. I've even gone in and gave people like a pink sticky note. I want you to bring this, and I want you to have this on every pad of paper, when you come into meetings, and you know that is my don't interrupt, refrain from interrupting, wait my turn, right? I've done that with people as well. You might need to give them a visual cue, and it's okay. But the bottom line is I want you to acknowledge progress where you've seen it. Hey, I could tell that you were working hard on it, and I know you're almost there, and maybe we could try this sticky note plan. Or, hey, great job, Joe. I noticed it. Let's keep it going. I really appreciate it. But you don't just stop there, right? You don't just tell them great work once. You tell them great work multiple times, week over week or day over day. So it reinforces the behavior that you want to see, leader. That's what's important. That's what's important here. So let's talk about the pitfalls, though, to avoid when you're having behavior-based conversations. I want you to avoid being vague, right? That's why we get specific. The specificity is very important. So feedback like just do better lacks direction and clarity of what do better even looks like. And I want you to also remember this. Behavior is often a symptom of a deeper issue. So you don't want to ignore the why. Why is this behavior showing up? So I can say it this way. You know, we all do the sandwich approach, the good, bad, good formula of feedback. And I would say authenticity trumps that every single time, friend. So when you are direct and authentic, it's much better than the sandwich formula. The sandwich formula works for the newbies, but not for the seasoned. And so I want you to think about it this way. Avoid saying things like just do better. And I want you to apply the I'm curious. Like, this is how we're going to get underneath it. I'm curious. This is me being authentic. When you miss deadlines, talk to me about how that makes you feel. Because here's what I've noticed. Okay. That's what I want. I want to do that. I want to be direct like that. And that way I'm giving the clarity of what I'm wanting and seeking. And I'm also showing that empathy to understand the why and getting underneath it. So that's just really some keys that you can also focus in on. And here's one thing that I want you to, the last and final of this that I would say, I want you to take one behavior that you've noticed. It's kind of my challenge for you. Take one behavior that you've noticed in your team this week, and I want you to apply the principles that we just discussed. Behavior focused managing is about clarity, collaboration, and consistent follow-up. Those three things: clarity, collaboration, and consistent follow-up. Focused on the behavior that you're wanting, but we've got to define those. That's your job to do that. Define what those behaviors are. When you identify and you take that one behavior that you might be noticing this week with your team and you apply the principles, I want you, what do you expect for the outcome, right? And then let me know, share a comment, come back to me and DM me on LinkedIn or Instagram and let me know how these worked when you were behavioral focusing on the behaviors. I'll say it better that way. I would love to hear you, because when you go into that behavior focus on managing others versus the personality, it's going to be a game changer for you and your team, building things like trust and building things like cohesiveness and building things that help people to feel that safety and security in a workplace that cares for them. Super, super important. And we're going to be exploring this more about managing behaviors and not just personalities, and how it's the key in future episodes. It's the key to unlocking your team's potential and performance without breaking trust. That's so important for you to know. I want to thank you, leader, for joining me for this quick in a hurry strategy session with you on how to be behavioral focused in managing others. Super important to your success when you apply it. And I want to thank you for taking time to grow into your next level of leadership, because we know that leadership isn't something that we're born with. Managing effectively, having bold conversations isn't something we're born with. It's something that we grow into. And you took time to grow into that next level today in the Sandbox. And I want to thank you for that. Make sure that you click subscribe, share this with a colleague or a team member that you think could really benefit from it. You know, third-party affirmations go so far in today's world economy. And I would be honored if you took the time to share the value that you gained in the Sandbox today with your friends, with your connections, with your colleagues, on LinkedIn, wherever you might want to share powerful, good content that's going to help people reshift and refocus to being the leader that they say that they want to be. Make it a great day. God bless.